Alright guys, I just want to say quickly before we jump in this video, I asked 7 pro players how they think UFC 4 could be improved and what its biggest problem is. They all replied to me. There were some that I wanted to ask that didn't have their DMs open, but these are the ones that did reply. They all gave me some really good answers. I definitely recommend watching the whole video, and yeah, enjoy the rest of the video, guys. Share your thoughts on how you think UFC 4 could be improved in the comments down below, and enjoy the video, guys. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video, and we are here on UFC 4, just some UFC 4 gameplay in the background. And obviously there is people have varied opinions on UFC 4 as a whole, as game, from not just career mode and online to the actual gameplay experience itself. So I thought, as someone that's played quite a bit of UFC 4 and I pretty much played all the UFC, I've played every UFC game actually. I think the only proper martial arts game I haven't played was the K1 game in the PS1. I've played them all from the PS3 all the way to right now on the PlayStation 5. So obviously I'm not a pro player. I've played against a few of them, the biggest one being Prioxus, and I thought I would ask as many pro players, not all of them. I didn't, no disrespect to anyone that I didn't ask. I just picked off the top of my head a bunch of people. There was a few like Jamie and Goat that didn't have their DMs open. I didn't want to bother their notifications with this question, so I asked a series of people, a series of pro players, their thoughts on how to fix the game. So for pretty much every single person, I asked the question. I said, hey bro, random question here, but I'm thinking for a video, as you're a pro player, what is your biggest problem with UFC 4? How do you think it could be improved? And obviously a lot of people do tweet things about, what the problem is with the game, but maybe, I don't know, I just thought it all bunched together, I would see as a whole and show you guys, if you don't follow them all on Twitter, what you think their biggest problem is for the game. So we're going to start in order of how they replied. We're going to start with, I'll try and put everyone's name up on screen here now. We're going to start with Andrew Slick Colt. I said, as a pro player at your level, what do you see the problems are? He replied with, I will try and, if I can, I will try and put the chat up on screen. It's just difficult because some of them are quite long paragraphs. He replied with, the main two for me are to rework the block system. At the moment, it's way too easy to break the block due to the block committal mechanic, where a jab breaks half the block bar instantly and it opens 1-2 head kick as they're straight round as the strikes come. So obviously that is a given. I am not an experienced player, but I know if I go online, I can land any clean shot on anyone with 1, 2, 3. Whereas in real life or in Fight Night or in any other UFC, I've gone back and I've played them, and it is, if you throw 1, 2, 3, unless they're weak, on any other game, the fighter 1, 2, and it's as simple as that move. That is what you get taught when you box in real life, and that is what most of them do on the game. But unfortunately, in UFC 4, they do this, and it does make sense because yes, you would block their moves coming, but you wouldn't overcommit like this to the point where you can't see, and a shot comes around the side of the head. So he just goes on to say about the kick to the head, which I get. The 1-2 head kick is a big thing, especially as the head kick tracks so much power. He said, and then along with this strike tracking, where you can duck a high kick or slip to the correct side to dodge an overhand, you still get hit by them. These issues complement each other because you can defend yourself properly once your block is gone, but it's not always working, so people can just throw endless strikes and do enormous damage instantly while you're punished for effective defense. Which I completely understand. I have had it before. I've been rocked and I have slip, move. I'm not the best at the game, but sometimes you have your moments where you feel good and it does feel like the punches track you. And that's obviously what Andrew, which is what Slick Colt says his biggest problem with. I just said I've experienced the 1-2 head kick. The overcommit or straight shots are huge, so also unrealistic. The block stays so stationary. So thank you to Slick Colt for that. And then we move on to Combo. I asked him the same question. He said, how much time you got? And he said, my biggest problem is they nerfed the block and buffed the stamina, brackets, massively, from UFC 3, while also somehow making counters non-existent, which is why you see the jab pressure meta. And then he did say there was so much more to complain about, but that was obviously his biggest problem, nerfing the block and buffed of the stamina massively. And then I have seen a lot of counter shots just not being as clean as they could be. I get that there is people that have clips where you move and you land it, but sometimes the counter shots are pathetic and they need to be strong. A counter shot fucking hurts in real life. If you even if you throw a straight and someone moves to the side flare and cracks you, you're down here at this point, chin exposed, and that's it. That's going to at least hurt, maybe not drop you. And then we're going to move on to Onza. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. asked him the same question. He said, for me, it's the fluidity issues. I'm never in a place where I feel that when I do something in a game that everything will 100% work the way it's supposed to. There's always some bug or something in the way, more often in UFC 4 than 3 or 2, if that makes sense. And obviously, it did make sense, which I completely get. I said I get it. As I box in real life, I am disappointed by the combo fluidity of the striking. You cannot string together combos as well as you should be able to in real life. And I'm not expecting, you know, it to be as realistic as real life, but there is a problem where I feel like stringing the combos together is not as clean as it should be. And I appreciate that people will say, well, an experienced player can do it, but this is irrelevant. I had been boxing for 6 months, and I can throw combos together better than any professional player can on the game. So, you know, that's the issue. We're going to move on to, in my opinion, one of the best players in the game right now, which is Romero. I asked him the same question, and he said, it can't just be one thing. It's multiple things that drive me up the wall about it. Currently, sorry guys for the abrupt cut there, I got a phone call. It's currently, in its state, it reminds me of UFC 3, where whatever you lack in skill can be rectified if you abuse certain mechanics as a crutch that are clearly busted. Which I completely, especially at the start of the game, the clinch was just ridiculous. In due time, those players will get patched out, but still is a prevalent issue. When the game rewards you for playing a specific way with almost anybody through exact same way in an MMA game, it's a problem. So, I completely agree, especially the PlayStation tournament that just happened. That was super, super disappointing. You know, I appreciate that these pros want to win. I get it, I do. But the problem that I had with it is you know, I was really enjoying the ESFL, but it just wasn't that fun to watch, really. Like, there was a few fights that were like, wow, these are good fights, but a lot of them, man, people were just abusing mechanics because they wanted to win. You know, someone wanted to go in with a clean fight, and someone wanted to abuse the mechanics. They both end up abusing the mechanics because that's the only way to counter it, fight fire with fire kind of thing. I completely understand it. It's just a shame. It's just the way it is. We're going to move on to Zaya, who I think is like the Cage Rage champion or something at the minute. I just asked him the same question, and he just said probably the tracking. I asked him what he meant by that, because obviously I'm not familiar with all of it with the lingo. He said, I'm talking about the ghost kicks, shit missing for no reason. And I did see a thing about that, where it was something like if you slip back and throw a kick, or if you check a kick then throw a kick, the kick just warps through the leg, which things like that, and I don't see how they can be in the game. How can you have a fighting game where the shots can go through the person? That to me is just pitiful. And then second from last person that I asked, Cody Danks, asked him the same question again. He said clinch spam and the posture ups on the ground being too fast. And I appreciated his thing because he went for more ground-based things. Being a guy that does jiu-jitsu in real life, I think he sees more problems than what maybe people that just played UFC 1, 2 and 3 will see. He also then said, add a clinch denial or bigger penalties for spamming clinch attempts and increase the denial window for posture ups, mostly in half guard. I suppose I get that because it can be kind of a flick and you're up, and then, you know, that wouldn't happen in real life. You would be being held down by your heads. That would be relatively difficult to posture up. So, you know, it was pretty good to get a ground game problem. And then we're going to come on to the last one, which is Boiler 569. The reason I've saved his till last is because his was really long, which is completely what I wanted. Don't think if you're watching this, Boiler, that I didn't like it. It was really cool to see you put so much thought into this question. So I asked him the same question as I've asked everyone. He said, good question, man, that is hard. He said, hit detection is quite annoying, and without fixing it, the ceiling on how good the game is will always be low, which is 100% true. He said, there are some non-vulnerability strikes I'd like to see do more damage. And then, good guy, Boiler, gives me an example. He says, for example, the rear straight to the body does almost no damage, even with perfect timing and distancing, which I've never noticed before, but he's got a great point. I sometimes try to go jab, then straight to the body, and I've never noticed that it doesn't do any damage, but in real life, that shit hurts, man. Like, you want to throw up if that lands perfectly. He then goes on to say, damage when opponent is vulnerable is pretty good. I like how deadly it is, but your run-of-the-mill strikes should do a bit more damage and add up more, if that makes sense, which I get. I suppose, in my eyes, the way he's saying that is kind of a Max Holloway thing, you know, the amount of strikes. They're not all knockout punches, they're not all Ngannou punches. They build up, they tie you up, they hurt you, they make you bleed, they cut you, they weaken you, and then eventually until you just fold and crumble and melt under that pressure. He then goes on to say, but really, hit detection might be what annoys me the most. He says, my style is a counterfire, so if my counters aren't registering, even though they are landing, or vice versa, it can really put me in a bad position. Some strikes track too well, some very poorly. So really, I'd love to see them just take a month or two and focus all their efforts on working out kinks, bugs, wonky hit detection, and the whole game would be better all around, in my opinion. Which we've had a few people say about the tracking of the punches. Completely agree. Some of the punches missing, especially if Boiler is a counter puncher, moving out the way, perfect defense, and landing, and it just kind of just go. It's just shit. You know, it's not rewarding skilled counter fighters. I didn't say I agree. Certain shots have really been left in the dark. You know, imagine counters not landing in real life. If Mayweather would never win if counters didn't hurt or register. So thanks for some great points. He said, I really try to be patient and set up my opponent. Nothing worse than doing so, landing the perfect counter, but it not registering, and I'm stuck with my arse hanging out there, get pieced up to be totally vulnerable. It then goes on to say, I usually throw, say, 65 strikes per round compared to opponent 100, so each of my strikes is more important than his, if that makes sense. I only have 65 to work with, so 5 of them failing hurts me worse than 5 of his strikes failing, which I completely get. If he misses 5, he's still got 95% accuracy. If Boiler misses 5, he's down to about a 92% accuracy. He says it doesn't work that way exactly, but you know what I mean. Lots of people complain about pressure. I think it's the #1 way to fix pressure. I agree. You know, if someone pressuring you, it does work. Pressure fighting works in real life. But if someone goes under pressure shots and moves under them, throws a body shot on the way, counter punch yet again, especially counters to the body seem to be the worst shots to actually get hit with in real life. He then goes on to say, I also feel stamina is a bit too much sometimes. People should start feeling negative impacts of low percent stamina at like 70%. You don't really notice it until like 50%, which I completely agree. You know, you start to, when you, even after the first minute of a round, you in real life, you do start to feel a bit like, you know, them deep breaths, whereas your fighter is absolutely fine 2 rounds in as long as you throw less than 150 shots per round. It says, also, strikes and uppercuts when you have 0 stamina after blowing a combo, let's say, are way too strong. And finally, this is a good one, short-term stamina should regenerate more slowly. People can blow their load, throw 7 strikes, wait like 2 seconds, and they have full stamina again. Just like head health takes a while to regen, especially if it drops below 50, so stamina should take a while to regen. Smiley face, now go make an awesome video, good luck. I think those are some really good points. I think everyone, you know, thanks again to, I'll do it in order here, thanks again to Coty, Zayaf, Boiler, Romero, Onza, sorry if I pronounced your name wrong, buddy, Combo, and Slick. Cole, I apologise to any pro player that I didn't ask. I didn't want to bother every single person. I just went off kind of the people that I thought of at the top of my head when thinking of making this video. I can't really add much more. Those guys are the ones that play it the most. Them guys are the ones that grind it every day. We know they play other games, but they grind it and they want to be the best. And these are the things that they believe are stopping them from being the best. And I completely agree with that. It is a bit of a bitch. Hopefully in the future they will fix it. I think a lot of the things that they've mentioned will get fixed relatively soon, as most of their complaints are very similar. Shot tracking, shots missing, counter punching being abysmal, the jab pressure meta, sorry. But really interesting stuff, and I appreciate them all replying, you know, to me. I didn't think they would, but they all did, so it was pretty cool. So yet again, I apologise to anyone I didn't ask. It's no disrespect, I just didn't think of you off the top of my head. Yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. That is what pro players think of UFC 4 and how it can be improved. I thought this would be interesting, as I've never really seen anyone take the time of day to ask all the not all of them, because the video would be about 45 minutes long, but to ask some of the top pro players, you know, what their thoughts are and what can be fixed. Unfortunately, I really wanted to ask Jamie, Suave Jamie, as he retired as the champion, and I want to ask Goat, as he was the champion as well at one point. But unfortunately, their DMs are closed, so I wasn't able to ask them. But yeah, that's pretty much it, guys. I don't really have much thoughts other than what these guys have shared. I completely agree with them. And yeah, thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.